Welcome to the Move Beyond Accounting podcast. I'm your host, Blair Cook. The MBA podcast is for financial professionals and entrepreneurs looking for unique insights into innovation, invention, intelligence, and all fields that create value for any organization. And today I'm really excited to have with me an extra special guest to discuss how entrepreneurs increase the value, durability, and eventual exit strategies of their businesses, even in the particular industry, such as the dental industry. So today I'm joined by Charlie Beaulieu of Tidal Accounting. Hopefully I've said that correct, Charlie. Charlie has spent nearly a decade serving the dental industry, providing accounting, analysis, and advisory services. And today we're going to discuss how industry specialization helps him bring more value to his clients. So welcome, Charlie, and maybe just spend a little bit more coloring in, because I probably butchered it a little bit there. Introduce yourself and how you came to found Tidal Accounting.
Yeah, thanks, Blair. Thanks for having me on the podcast today. And well done on pronouncing my last name right. So, so Tidal Accounting came to be about a year ago. And it was a situation where for the past 9 years, I was working as the COO, CFO within a dental corporation. And I learned so much doing that. And so once I exited that, I kind of took all those skills that I learned for that time and put it into Tidal Accounting. And so like you said, I provide accounting and bookkeeping services specialized to the dental world, and do the basic bookkeeping and then use those numbers to provide the advisory services that help dentists grow and be more efficient.
Amazing. I love the fact that you had your operations as well as, the accounting transaction process stream, because again, you really have accountability for the results. My first question is, why dental? How did you fall into the dental field?
It's a funny story because at the time, I was purely just looking for kind of my next job in the bookkeeping world. And so I'm applying for jobs, and there was a dentist looking for a bookkeeper. And so I applied and I got the position there. And so at the beginning, it was 3 days a week, just straight up bookkeeping. And then the financial coordinator at the time had gone on mat leave. And my boss said, well, you're good with numbers, financial coordinator, why don't you do that for a year? And you can cover the mat leave. And then he started growing his practice. He started building practices. And as the only person that wasn't in a patient's mouth, everything just kind of naturally fell to me. Say, go to site, check on this. Can you go pick up that and drop it off at site? And where's this? And it just kind of blossomed into this COO, CFO role where I quickly learned the ins and outs and the levers that work within a dental office. And from there, we built 4 more practices, sold 2, and so I was able to see the entire life cycle of dental clinics for a number of years. So I know I had a very adventurous 9 years in the dental world where most people don't see what I saw in a 30-year career.
No, I love that. Amazing in-depth experience. And again, seeing the full life cycle and the growth aspect, playing in all life parts of that industry life cycle. Let's get into, I guess my first question really is the services you've now taken what you've learned in that experience, created your own business. Are you still providing that full scale mandate with the finance and the operations, or are you particularly focused on the finance side?
Yeah, I'm definitely more focused on the financial side of things. There was a point where I was thinking maybe I can be a consultant of all things dental, but given my background being in accounting and bookkeeping, I felt that it's better for me to focus in on there. There's a lot of competition within the consulting space of dental, and I felt generalizing myself would just kind of make it harder. So I specialized in the accounting and bookkeeping side of things, and I found it's much easier because I actually work with a lot of consultants now, and so they provide their expertise in in scheduling or clinical systems, and I can provide all the information on the financial side of things to actually showcase for them a little bit better as to what they're doing is making fundamental changes within the dental office.
Oh, my best friend's a dentist, and so I know enough just to be dangerous about that. She and I often talk about some of the challenges she has. But when I think about the dental business, based on what I know, there's certainly technology involved in
Yeah.
how they provide dental services and imaging and scheduling and all that. But it strikes me as one of the key success factors for her office is around managing people. There's an incredible number of people and scheduling logistics and details. Is that a fair characterization of your typical dental practice?
Yeah, I characterize one of the like fundamental difference makers between a successful practice and an average practice really is kind of the team and culture. And I mean, you can have two equally phenomenal dentists in two different practices, and both of them will only go as far as the team will take them.
Mhm.
So that really is a big thing that dentists need to focus on is the team and making sure they have everybody kind of in the right seat on the bus, if you will. Making sure that everybody's working together in harmony, having good systems to make sure that yes, the schedule is tightly scheduled, but not too tight that it creates chaos. Because if you run over 10 minutes on an appointment, you don't want that to cascade through the rest of the day to everything else, right? So there's a fine balance between yes, too full and not full enough, and yeah, making sure that the teams understand how to schedule that every single day between 20, 30, 40 people is definitely an art.
Yeah, and just by saying like 20, 30 people or 40 people in an office,
Yeah,
you get a feel for how labor intensive,
yeah.
between the dental hygienists and those frontline staff. Like you think they're just greeting people at the front door and maybe checking
Oh,
them on the way out. No, maybe just
yeah,
talk a little bit about the importance of that front desk and those
yeah, no,
folks.
they really are an unsung hero in the office. They get the worst of it too. Dealing with maybe upset patients that they didn't get the time slot that they want specifically, or maybe their teeth hurt a little bit more after they're cleaning because it's been a while. Unfortunately, the admin team kind of gets the brunt of that. But they're also the people that are, responsible for the schedule and production levels and making sure everything jives to the day. And then taking into account all the nuances behind the team. Maybe this hygienist needs a little bit extra time because, you know, they do a little bit differently on their notes and stuff like that, or, making sure that this appointment needs a little bit more time over the standard because, this is maybe a bit more of a high needs patient. They like a little bit more explanation. They like it to be a little bit slower. They don't want to be just run through their filling appointment as fast as possible. And then on the opposite side, you got a person that they know that falls asleep during their restorative appointment, and they know that they can get it done in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of nuance that they have to understand at that front office or front desk, and just being able to handle everybody with grace all day for 8 hours. It can be mentally tolling for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And when you have, 20, 30, 40 people in a dental office, I mean, corporate culture would to me seem to be pretty important in terms of maintaining morale and everybody needs to get along and
Absolutely.
it's right.
Yeah,
Ha-
it's one of those things that when I managed an office, that was the first and foremost was I hired for kind of personality fit. Skill side, we can train that. You can figure that out. You can train on your systems, but they got to jive with the team. That's the first and foremost thing. If somebody can be infinitely skilled and the best registered dental assistant you've ever seen, but if they don't play nice in the sandbox, then it doesn't matter.
I'm sure I've heard many stories through my
Yeah, I'm
relationship
sure
with
you
my
have.
friend, and I
Yeah,
know how tricky that can be. And
yeah,
dentists just want to get in there and do dental work, but when they have this organization, which can get quite large in these,
absolutely,
even if there's only two dentists, like you say, it becomes a fairly large organization, a lot of moving parts.
absolutely,
Maybe
yeah,
just talk a little bit about what's the playbook of running a really great dental practice? What are some of the key
yeah,
success factors?
yeah. So off the top of my head, I can think of four things that kind of set you. If you can nail these, you'll be above average in terms of dental office, and that would be kind of your recare rate. So that's essentially for every new patient or for every say 100 new patients you bring in, you want to see 85% of them back. So 85 back in a 6 month or 12-month span. Okay, if you can do that, it means that you're a growing practice. Okay, new patient numbers. There's not really a metric that you want to meet. But if you can do 20 to 30 new patients a month and continue that, you're going to have a growing practice. Answer call rate, 95%. So making sure you actually answer those phones. If you can do that, it means that you're answering the phone, you're answering the calls, you're getting people scheduled in, and kind of meeting the needs of the patient base. And then lastly is kind of the accounts receivable and making sure that you maintain kind of a 97% collection rate on production. And if you can meet 97%, you're going to be able to kind of maintain that cash flow and keep the piggy bank full for tax time and payroll time. So
and none of these things that you've just described, those 4 KPIs you've described,
yeah,
I mean, they aren't directly related to patient care or how effective the dentist is at filling a cavity or extracting a
no,
tooth or any of those things. These are like running a business.
yeah, and I mean, working with Tidal Accounting, we go down the rabbit's hole of key performance indicators beyond that. But those are kind of the
The big ones that
70% of, the big ones if you can nail. And but yeah, no, I mean, a lot of it does rely on your team, that recare rate. That is a team-based goal, making sure that they make the phone calls and actually have good conversations with the team. When they came to the office, that they actually had a good experience with the hygienist or the dentist or the dental assistants. Because if they didn't, doesn't matter how many times you call them back, they're not coming back. So that really does actually play a lot into the team culture. You can have a naturally high recare rate because the experience that they had in your dental office was just so good and so powerful for them that they want to come back, that this is their dental home, and yes, I'll be back for my cleaning in 6 months or 12 months. So it does play into the team culture a lot. Aspect for some of those key performance indicators. The new patient exams, obviously, word spreads fast if you're a good office or if you're a bad office. So
yeah.
the friends recommend each other to go there or not. A lot of that revolves around team culture.
Yeah, recare is just another way of saying churn, customer
Yep.
churn in many
Yep.
respects. To what degree does social media and those referrals, I don't know, Google referrals or Yelp or
Yep.
whatever? I know the Dental Association has rankings as well for dentists. To what
Yep.
degree does that impact patient decisions to uh, select a dentist and then to come back?
Yeah, it's definitely a key factor. In my local market of Airdrie, there's unfortunately, when you stand on one office, you can actually see, I think it's 9 or 10 different dental offices if you do a 360. So it is one of those things that, yes, you can go to any dentist you want, and I mean, generally speaking, you're going to get the same level of care. You're going to get a filling done. So yes, that does play a part in kind of getting that initial phone call. But then did you pick up the phone? Did you have an appointment that was, readily available in a time window that suited them? And then once they got there, did you actually meet their expectations and stuff like that? So it is important for that initial phone call, but that's just kind of the first step of 10 to actually land that patient for, longer term.
Okay, very good. Talk to me a little bit about technology for a moment. Like, is there like does the dental world have a standardized platform that does like an ERP for dental world, or is this finance system separate from the system that maintains patient care and records and all that?
Yeah, this is one of the bane of my existence within the dental world, and this could be a whole podcast on its own. Unfortunately, there is no kind of cohesive platforms for the dental world. And it even refines down that if you run a specialty practice, there's even further systems that focus on the ortho world versus general dentistry. And even within that, yeah, there's kind of about 5 kind of big platforms that probably make up about 80% of the market. But beyond that, there's lots of systems. And then beyond that, depending on what practice management software you choose, that then just dictates what X-ray software you can use or what recare, phone systems you can use. So it really becomes quite a kind of a tree of decisions that really all start with the practice management software. So, if you really like a certain recare system, it might only work with 2 different practice management software. So if you want that, then you got to make a decision between 2 of those. And then, unfortunately, on the accounting side, none of these actually chat with your accounting system. So it handles all the revenue, billings, AR systems of your business. And then your accounting system typically handles all of your expenses and stuff like that. So you actually have to marry those two together to make sure that they reconcile monthly, that the accounts receivable and revenue matches.
Yep.
Make sure the collections and the bank all match. So that's one of the things that actually makes us kind of specialty and niche within here, is that we do a revenue reconciliation to make sure that all your insurance payments that hit the bank are reflected in the practice management software, and everything that you put in the practice management software is reflected in the bank. And if there's any discrepancies there, we let you know right away. So
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
yeah.
To what degree do you see AI filtering into aspects of operations in dental practices, either in the finance, the operations, or even, do we have AI doing some of the analysis of X-rays and stuff like that at this point? Or
Yeah, AI is, I mean, prevalent in the dentistry world, and it has been for a number of years. Initially it started out with kind of the AI note taking, so being able to record and put in the practice management software, and then we saw it go into kind of the X-ray side of things. So kind of that double check to make sure that you caught all the cavities and watches that you need to have on the X-rays that you take of intraoral. And now the new thing of kind of the past year has been the AI receptionist side of things.
I would have thought that would be
Yeah,
a pain
so
point.
it is, but it's been a curious situation because it I like it. I think it's something for the future. It's one of those things that it's still, I don't think, good enough yet.
Yeah.
And what I've seen in some of the actual real world feedback I got is some people really don't like talking to AI at all.
Yeah.
And so as soon as they figure out it's AI, they actually just hang up
Yeah.
angrily. And now you've actually probably lost that patient. So it's actually kind of counterintuitive to what you were hoping it to do, is that 100% answer rate. But one of those things, 2 to 3 years down the road, I think it's something that absolutely is going to be, a big player in the dental world. I also think that there's ways to deploy it that are useful. That after hours or weekend phone coverage, so that you always kind of answer the phone and get the information from the patient. Rather than that 9 o'clock emergency call to figure out, hey, I think I broke my tooth. Can I come in? That's now something you can actually maybe collect and act on, and be that kind of front of line service provider. Whereas typically, well, you won't check the voicemail until 8 a.m. the next morning, and by that time they might have called 6 other dental offices and gone somewhere else. So
Yeah, because there's just too many endpoints. It's not like you're phoning in and making a restaurant reservation, where it's like,
exactly,
pick
yeah,
me a time and I'm going to show up. Or
yeah,
in dentistry, an emergency call. It's what's your need. So there's a lot more endpoints, and so I agree. I think that's where AI can actually shoot you in the foot when it comes to your customer service and
yeah,
your care, your recare metric that we discussed earlier.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about some of the industry, and think about setting up. You talked about you had a couple of practices that you were actually sold off.
Yep.
What was going through? Like, did the dentist retired? Was it a thoughtful process around, preparing the dentist practice for sale, and what steps they may have taken ahead of time to prepare for that eventuality?
Yeah, with this particular situation, that was always kind of the game plan. So one of the things that was key from the beginning was that when the practice was built, it was actually set up as much as it could be as its own entity. So it had its own bank account and credit cards and stuff like that. So from an accounting perspective, it was easy to delineate what was what. So if you were ever to sell it, you could have a P&L that was related purely to that clinic. So you didn't have a mixture of numbers, which obviously during due diligence becomes an absolute nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, in this case, that was kind of always the plan as well. It was, build a practice, own it for about 5 to 7 years, and then look to sell it as a, uh, investment kind of thing. And so, yeah, there's definitely ways to set that up. I think generally in dentistry as well, I mean, that's kind of the exit plan for almost all dentists, is that they build their practice, they make it their own, and then in 10 to 15 years down the road, they sell the practice. And a lot of times they don't have that mindset in play from the beginning, but it's definitely something that as you approach that kind of next 2 to 4 year window, if you're looking to sell in that window, you do need to start to take a different approach the way you work within the business and stuff like that. A lot of times, businesses, as we know, they have a lot of personal expenses sometimes flooded in there through shareholder loan accounts and stuff like that. And it's one of those things that you definitely want to clean that up in the years prior to selling so that you can kind of make that profit and loss statement look as beautiful and as inviting to investors and potential buyers as possible, and to make that EBITDA number grow as big as possible so that the multiples of that is obviously as big as possible, and you can kind of exit with as big a package as possible.
Okay, very good. What impact has the whole government subsidization of dental care and coverage had for dentists in your experience?
Yeah, well, it's been an interesting time. Obviously, kind of one of the big companies that got bought out by some private equity in the U.S. Um, and I think that's kind of a sign of what is expected to come, is that as I coin it, public money for private profit.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's definitely been a boon for many dentists, because it's brought online, a lot of extra patients that, traditionally didn't go to visit the
Wouldn't go.
office because, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They didn't have benefits. And so it's definitely been a boon for many dentists. It's also brought in a lot of its own challenges too, because it's brought in patients that haven't been in front of the dentist for 5, 6, 7 years, and so they're coming in with a lot of dental
Major
care
work.
need. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, and then sometimes working with the government, there is a process to that that's definitely a little bit more strict than some of the other insurances. So it has created also a lot of extra admin work for teams to kind of providing the backup and justifications for some of these treatments. Not to say that they're unjustified, just the insurance companies are expecting a lot more kind of due diligence, and which sometimes isn't to the patient's benefit, because if the patient needs a root canal right now, they're obviously in discomfort and they don't want to have to wait 6 to 8 weeks to find
Yeah.
out from the government insurance plan if they're covered or not. So there has been a little bit of a disconnect from that. It's definitely gotten better from the beginning of the program. That those timelines have definitely cleared up, and there's been a lot more indication as to the process to get approved. But yeah, it's definitely brought on a lot more patients to the dental market, and yeah, you kind of seen that with some of these DSOs that coming up from America into the Canadian space to take advantage of the increased market share.
Yeah, it's I know, like for instance, my own experience with my friend there is, they're booked, a couple of months in
Yep,
advance now. It's just really hard to get a last minute appointment anytime.
yep,
You're on
absolutely.
cancellation lists endlessly, which is great for business. And
Yep,
any
absolutely.
indication as to what has that public, what has you described it, the public private option there that we've
Yeah.
now created? Is that what sort of a bump did that have in top line for dental practices? Was it a
Yeah, so the clients that I've worked, it's actually only been about 10 to 12%. So it hasn't been like a massive boom, but I mean, it's definitely been an increase.
it filled in whatever
And
capacity they had
yeah,
easily?
and there has been definitely some more offices that have been a little bit more catered to that demographic of patient.
Ah,
And
interesting.
so yeah, so some of my dental offices actually, they don't accept CDCP because they do see it as a little bit of a headache at times, just the
Yep.
extra admin work and the types of patients and casework it's bringing in. But yeah, as an average, about 10 to 12%, increase in revenue just naturally from that CDCP plan.
Yeah. You talked
Yeah.
about, the interest from the US and some private equity, and in
Yep.
Canada, there's a couple of consolidators that are out there as well.
Yep.
Dental industry has been ripe for consolidation, roll up, whatever the strategy you want to characterize it as.
Yep.
Has any of your clients been involved in that? Maybe just kind of what does that look like?
I mean, they're always circling.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing that I've been involved with kind of directly
N-
yet.
nobody's
But
gone. Nobody's sold out
nobody's
their
gone
practice.
yet. But
Yeah.
no, there's definitely been like the conversations, to say
Yeah.
like, hey, what would the price look like, if I was to sell. So there has been those kind of like initial conversations to at least get a price in people's head for the dentist. And I mean, I do invite people to do that at all times, because I mean, it's one of those things that you should know what, your business is valued at, in the open market. And if that's a number that means that you get to retire tomorrow and ride off into the sunset, then all the power to you. And if you then realize that, it's not the number I need and I got some work to do, then, that's a good situation as well to understand maybe what your trajectory needs to be over the next 3 to 5 years to get it to where you want it to be. So, but yeah, no, I haven't been directly involved in any of those yet.
You haven't closed one yet, but
No.
what sort of, like, how are they valuing them, and what sort of metric are they throwing around in ballpark to get people thinking?
Yeah. So, I mean, the variables that I've heard and seen have been kind of that 5 to 7 times EBITDA. Um,
Okay.
However, some of it is rolled up into equity. So it's not typically all cash,
Hmm.
which, puts some risk to how you can get some of that equity out later on. And I mean, as we saw with one of the roll-ups, is that it got sold to private equity, so there was actually no more, no more public growth. It went private again. So that's definitely a thing. And then typically too is that there is clauses in there that you actually have to work within the practice for a set number of years. So sometimes you don't actually get to sell the practice for 5 times EBITDA and walk away next week and ride off into the sunset. There is kind of some part of the paperwork that you actually need to work for the next 3 to 5 years, and you need to work a certain amount. So which again, sometimes that's great. You get to kind of move into just being an employee and being a dentist, and you come in, you do your 8 hours of dental work, and you get to go home, and you don't have to worry about being the business owner anymore. So sometimes that is absolutely good for people, but sometimes it's also a bit of a tough change to accept that you're not the one making the calls anymore.
Yeah. Well, I know in the case of my friend, they did sell out to one of these private equity firms,
Yep.
and as just as you characterized it there, they have to stay on for a certain number of years, but they do have a retained interest, so they still have
Yep.
an equity stake, but it's a minority stake in it, so they do have
Yeah.
a stake in the upside. And again, one of the things that they were hoping for was that they'd get away from the administrative, managing those 30 to 40 people.
Yeah.
And there's been some degree of success. Sometimes they do still get dragged into the office politics and dealing
Yeah.
with the people issues, even though there is somebody else that's supposed to be their job, an operating manager. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's a very interesting model because it's not like you sell your business, to your point, and go away. You're still
Yeah.
you become
You're
an
still involved.
employee, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's a very interesting event, but you do get a large check when you sell your business, and so
Yeah.
you take some money off the table, and whether that helps you sleep at night or pay for some kids' educations along the way.
No, and exactly, and a lot of times too, it is actually about de-risking yourself too. If you're the sole owner and something happens to you as a dentist, something happens to a hand, and tomorrow now you can't work. At least within a corporation, there is some kind of de-risking of yourself that you're now just an employee, and you'll be able to. You kind of got out early, so there is that side of it too.
Talk to me about what are some of the, like, you're now an entrepreneur yourself, setting up your own
Yep.
practice there. How are you thinking about this from an entrepreneurial standpoint, for the advantages and disadvantages of being niche focused? Or are you open to taking on clients from other industries, or do you really want to focus and become the best of the best in the dental industry?
Yeah, I mean, the long-term game is absolutely the dental world, and all my advertising and anything you'll see of me
It's
publicly
all
is
dental.
dental. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that has definitely led to some conversations and side businesses. And being an entrepreneur, I still got to pay the bills. So absolutely, there's been a few clients that have been taken on that, aren't dental specific. I have actually branched out into some other medical fields, into chiropractor and kind of actual family medicine practices. And so I've kind of making sure that my systems work in other industries as well. But yeah, it's definitely, I think the niching down part is really helpful, because like I said earlier, I know this industry. I lived it
That's
for
great.
9 years. I know when I look in the PL and I see certain line items, I can know what that looks like actually operationally, rather than just, hey, you're high on expense here. I can say, hey, you're high on expense here, and I think I know why, and we can really kind of pare that down. And the advisory level then is just becomes a lot more in depth, because um, I didn't learn the dental accounting from the outside. I learned it from actually building it on the inside, and seeing firsthand when I made policy changes as COO, CFO, how it affected the financials next month or next quarter, and being able to say, okay, that didn't work. Let's go in a different direction. So
Talk about your service delivery model. Is it are you going into the dental practices, or are you able to do this remotely, or how do you deliver service?
yeah, so it's all done remotely. I built this as a digital first offering, because A, I wanted to be Canada wide. B, I wanted to be home with my family. That was kind of first and foremost. Like before the podcast, I had to run out and grab my kid from
Yeah.
school because they got sick. And so that was kind of first and foremost. And then the offering really is actually all about kind of accuracy, timeliness, and then that advisory side of things. So we deliver our reporting in an extremely timely fashion. So all my reporting for up to January 31st for all my clients was done actually well, almost 2 weeks ago now. So they get the reporting right away so that they can make decisions this month that actually pertain to the go forward of the business. So a lot of times, business in general, they might look at their financials once a year, after the first half of the year is done, and find out that, oh, we're behind on a few goals for this year. So we try to take the approach that we actually try and gamify it a little bit. You actually look forward to these financials. They're all custom as well, so
Yeah.
it's something that makes it quick and easy for the owner to read. There's lots of nice infographics and charts rather than the typical profit and loss or balance sheet wall of
Yep.
numbers that are like, well, I don't know, the bottom number is black, so we must be good. So it gives a lot of more information, and then from that information, they're able to glean is to make decisions right then and there as to, okay, this trend graph has gone down, I need to fix that right away, and they can take action February, for information that they receive. So it just makes it a lot more easier to build towards the actual goals that they have for the business when you do this stuff monthly. And then the advisory side of things, just taking that information and giving them actionable insights right away.
Yeah, and just because I'm not sure when this will be released, but you're closing inside of 10 days. You've gamified it, some sort of a dashboard to them, made it
Yeah,
made it interactive, interesting, engaging a dentist in the number side of the business,
yeah,
which is part of the secret of your success, and certainly the value added advisory that you and your
yeah.
firm provide. So it sounds like you're growing. Is it particularly Canada, or is it international? Like how does that work in the dental world?
Yeah, no, it is Canada only right now.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of nuance differences between Canada and the U.S. market, and especially on kind of the practice management side. I haven't done the U.S. side, and there's more than enough dental offices in Canada
Yeah, for
to
sure.
satisfy.
Those consolidators
So
haven't sucked up all the private
no,
independent,
not all of them yet. So
is you got some room to run there.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
it sounds like you can do a little bit of, I guess, horizontal diversification as well.
Yeah.
If you get into like chiropractors and doctors, is there a lot of similarities between the different practitioners that are out there?
Yeah, the kind of key similarity is the fact that when we do that revenue reconciliation, so managing your practice management software, making sure that all the collections and deposits in that system match the bank and the accounting system, so that does actually become transplantable to other medical industries such as chiro, where there's insurance payments involved. So it just, from my standpoint, just becomes learning the nuances of chiro and the different key performance indicators there. But the systems themselves that I've developed for the dental world actually do transplant well. Yes, like you said, laterally to other medical professionals that have insurance based payments involved.
Okay. And how are you going to grow your business? Are you going to add people to it, or add technology, or how far can you go? How fast can you go? How do you think about scaling title accounting?
Yeah, so it's been a learning curve for the first year. When I kind of set out, I had a kind of benchmark in mind that once I got to this, production per month for myself in terms of a subscription model, that was probably going to be my capacity. And then every time I took deep dive down AI or something like that, I'd find, okay, there's another 10% that I can handle now and 15%. And so beginning of the year when I started, it was, I've actually doubled kind of my own internal production capabilities myself. But I have actually hired my own part-time staff member already.
Yep.
And I have plans to hire another part-time staff member next month. Just planning for that growth, making sure that I don't get to that point of I'm over inundated. And so it's going to be growth through growing team members, but also through technology, because as we've seen, AI has been crazy these past few years, and what you can do with it to kind of make yourself more productive. And
I can't resist the curiosity. What's your killer AI app that's put a few minutes or a few hours back into your week?
Honestly, just utilizing ChatGPT, and obviously the Teams-based version. So, just finding those ways to kind of automate some of the mundane tasks myself, whether it be the formatting of certain spreadsheets from the way it gets exported from one system and imported to the next, or just the fact of making sure that writing and stuff like that becomes a little bit easier, because I can either start with an idea that AI can kind of finish, or AI can refine for me. It just makes that process for me a lot quicker. And then obviously analytical side of things too. Just being able to kind of get in 30 seconds some analysis based on kind of my presets and stuff like that. Obviously, just makes a lot of that stuff happen a lot quicker. So.
I'm hazard to guess. I'm a lot older than you are, and I'm trying to embrace this AI mindset. Ha- Tell me, how do you think of AI? Like, is this just do you think, can AI do this task before you do something, and you're just always thinking about it? And how do you stay on top of the latest and greatest functionality of the AI that comes out?
Yeah, it really is, like, curiosity is kind of the only way I think to learn AI right now. I've heard of courses for AI. I'm like, no, just play with it. And it's been, for me, I've really tried to think like outside of the box. And yes, to your point, like when I kind of think of a system or process, I'm like, how can AI, you know, do this for me? And I actually have dedicated time where I'll actually just sit with AI and I'll just explore things. I'm like, hey, what about this? Like, what if we, can you do this? If I give you this information, can you output something for me that, I want? And so it's not always perfect. And sometimes it takes a lot more kind of inputs than I want than to me just do it myself. So there is that fine balance still where it's like, okay, is this actually better in AI, or is it just still easier for me to do to get the outcome that I actually want? But yeah, it's like I said, I mean, the game changer over the past year has been, month over month. I actually stopped writing some of my standard operating procedures months ago, because I was like, it's just going to change next month because AI will change
Yes.
something. So it's like, I'm just going to stop writing this because it's actually just more time to re-edit these every month because it changes.
And for us in accounting and finance, that's hard for us, because once we perfect a process, we like to
Yep,
standardize and simplify and just keep
exactly.
doing it and making it, refining and making it better. We don't like to just jump horses the next month and try something the month after.
Yeah.
It defies what accountant DNA is composed of.
It is. It is a difficult concept to get around sometimes, because yeah, there's some days I'm like, you know what, I'll just standardize. This is taking too much research time. I just want to get this done.
All right. Well, listen, I want to bring this in for a landing here. Any
Yeah.
final words on how you're building your business, or any advice you'd have to dentists, or to to other people who are building a bookkeeping practice to support a client base?
Yeah, I mean, on the kind of bookkeeping side, I think there's tons of opportunities out there right now, whether it's niche down or just general bookkeeping in general. If you have the mind for it, I think now is the best time as any to do these, to take that jump. So I would encourage anybody who's thinking about it to go for it, because it's worked out for me. And to the dentists, I would say that there is supports for you out there. You don't have to do it all by yourself. There's a lot of good people in this industry that can provide that help in the areas that maybe you're not the greatest at, such as finances or HR or marketing and stuff like that. That can allow you just to focus on what you're great at, and that being dentistry, and giving people the treatment that they need. So That would be my parting words.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you've taken, you professionalized the practices of dentistry beyond just, patient care and brought the finance and metrics and
Yeah,
analysis and advisory aspect to it. So, Charlie, thank you so much for joining us today on the MBA podcast.
no worries. Thanks very much for having me, Blair.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on another episode soon.